Welcome to day 58 of the New Way. Leprosy was a terrible skin disease that killed the nerve endings and rotted away the skin and tissue. At that time, there were no antibiotics or treatment. It was contagious, and so if you contracted this virus, you would be required to leave your home and move to a leper's area outside of town. You were not allowed to touch another person, and there were rules about how far you had to stand away from people so that they would not catch your disease. If anyone accidentally got near you, you had to shout, "Unclean, unclean," so that they would move away. There were two possible outcomes to the disease. It was often fatal, but sometimes the virus would stop spreading and healthy tissue would begin to grow. If that happened, you could go to the priest, and if he agreed that you were healthy, you could move back into your home and be with people again. So with that background, let's look at today's passage. I'll read Matthew 8, 1 through 4. When Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them." The leper said to Jesus that he believed that Jesus could heal him. He just didn't know if he would. Now that's a really good place to be if what you are saying is, "I know you can heal me, but I want your will to be done, and I don't know if this is your will for me." But it's a really terrible place to be if what you are really saying is, "I know you can heal me, but I don't know whether you care about me or love me enough to do this for me." Sometimes it is hard to trust that God loves us, and Satan is always tempting us to question his love. And since we know we don't deserve his love, it's easy to fall into a position of doubting. But that is really sad, because it is contrary to everything God has said and done for you. God is love, and he has shown great love toward you by sending Jesus. It is essential for you to grow in this area so that you can trust that God loves you even when times are hard. Let's read the same account in Mark 1, 40 through 45. A man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus was indignant. He reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." Immediately the leprosy left him, and he was cleansed. Jesus sent him away at once with a strong warning. "See that you don't tell this to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them." Instead, he went out and began to talk freely, spreading the news. As a result, Jesus could no longer enter a town openly, but stayed outside in lonely places. Yet the people still came to him from everywhere. Mark records that Jesus was indignant. I believe that he was sad that the man would assume that he wouldn't want to heal him. Do we make Jesus sad by our lack of faith in his love? Secondly, do you see the consequences of the man's disobedience? Jesus was no longer able to freely move around to teach and heal without being mobbed by people who needed healing. Now, I think it had been bad before, but apparently now it became impossible. Let's read Luke's account in Luke 5:12 through 16. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy. When he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. Then Jesus ordered him, "Don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them." Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Luke records the same story, but adds one more little detail. Did you see it? Because of the man's disobedience and the fact that now Jesus couldn't enter the cities, Jesus spent more time in prayer alone. So God took what was bad and worked it out to Jesus' advantage. In Romans 8:28 we're told, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." In his service, Dale.